everybody, and welcome to the Maurice Brown Show. And we have a very special guest with us this afternoon from Atlanta, all the way live from Atlanta, Georgia. We got my main man on the show. We met each other a few years ago, maybe 4 years ago, at the LOL GCA, which is the Living on Laughter Gospel Comedy Association. And this gentleman is now based in Atlanta, Georgia. Been doing comedy for about 6 or 7 years. He likes to show people that comedy can be clean. There's no question about it. You can be clean and hilarious. And he likes to do that. I love to do that. Like I said, we met at, I think it might have been Charlotte, North Carolina at the LOL GCA. But he's a college professor by day, comedian by night. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show the very funny and the very talented, the very hilarious Weight Ball. What's going on, brother?
Oh, doing well. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. Doing well, man. Can't complain at all, man. It's just a blessing to be in the house, but not necessarily be stuck doing nothing, right? So,
well, you know what? As you mentioned that, this pandemic has got comedians all stretched out. I mean, we don't even know how to operate in this environment. What have you been doing to stay busy during this pandemic?
Well, here in Atlanta, we actually opened it up a little earlier than most people. We kind of live reckless here, I guess. I don't know exactly. It's more politics than anything, but I know we opened up at the end of May. So really all of June, the comedy clubs have been open.
Wow. So, wow. I didn't know that, man.
Yeah. So we got some protocols. Most of the time they take about half of the tables out. So you have some distance within your seats. They treat it like a lot of restaurants. So, you put your mask on when you come in, but obviously with your group, you're not going to social distance within the people that you're with,
Right. You're not going to do that, of course. Yeah.
But we have a good time. One thing I can definitely say is that the crowds right now really are coming to laugh. They really are enjoying themselves. You can tell that people kind of been starved for a bit. But I definitely have done a couple of virtual shows. Nothing's like the tangible energy that you get in a room with people.
Right.
But, I think some of the shows, if you have the Zoom where you can see several people's face, then it helps a little more than like on the Instagram Live where you just get to see the laughter or the little hand clap.
Right.
Or something, so
yeah.
I'm definitely a people person. So, the virtual side is not my favorite thing. There's ways to go.
Let me ask you this: when you're doing show, because I know when you're doing the shows down there, it's like socially distanced crowds, I would imagine. And as well as I do, I mean, it takes away when you spread people out, the laughs are kind of difficult to generate. So what's it been like as far as that goes?
Well, it's not as bad as you would think.
Okay.
A lot of times people are sitting at the front or they're sitting at the back of a table looking at a stage. So then there's always a table apart, so it's not as wide as you would think. And then when you have large groups, so if some people are in a group of 5 to 10 people, then it doesn't take that many of those groups to kind of give a decent feel. Maybe really if we got 40 or more people in the building, that's not a bad show for most places.
Yeah. I'm glad you're able to get out, man. I know in DC everything's shut down. I'm located in DC. There's nothing happening. Nobody's getting out. Now people are doing outdoor shows in the DC area and in other parts of the country. I noticed that, which makes it even more difficult to get the laughs because now you don't have a ceiling. You can't trap the sound. So that's even more difficult. And I haven't really wanted to do an outdoor show because of that, but I'm doing virtual. I didn't want to do that in the beginning. So I've been doing virtual, but I tell you what, it's tough. My wife, because as comics, this is tough. But my wife, she informed me of some great news recently, Weight Ball. She did.
What she say?
She said, honey, we have enough money for the rest of our lives.
What?
Yeah. Yeah. She
That's
said,
doing all right.
yeah. She said, we just have to die tonight. So,
Oh, there is a catch.
yeah, we'll be fine by 10 p.m. But anyway, it's all good, Weight Ball. I'll tell you, man, we're making this thing work. And so I guess you guys, man, I'm shocked about Atlanta, actually just like, hey, yo, we're doing this. Man,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
amazing.
And then, the thing is, the city of Atlanta is one thing, but the main comedy clubs are right outside of the city. So they kind of have a slightly different jurisdiction. And,
Yeah.
you know, money, I guess it's all about politics and money. They open here, though, wide open. I've been
Man, yeah.
places where you feel uncomfortable that it's so packed. And that's just Walmart, waiting on the ranch wings, right?
Well,
So,
dude, I tell you what, you have an interesting journey in comedy, where you were actually you got your PhD, I believe in environmental science, and then from that point, somehow, some way, you got interested in comedy. Tell us a little bit about that.
yeah, well, I do have a doctorate in environmental science. I was in academia at one point teaching for one of the local colleges, but really my main job is for the Center for Disease Control, not
Okay.
working with diseases, working on the environmental side. So,
Right.
uh,
Right.
but in my academic journeys, a lot of times I've always, been a funny person, not necessarily a class clown, but I guess I was a class clown, but a class clown in the accelerated classes. So it wasn't like I was in the lower class. I was in the higher class, the
Right.
more,
Right. Right. Yeah.
and I might have been a class clown in that class, but you know, that class you wasn't gonna be too disrespectful, right? It's a level of class clown that you would be. So long story
Yeah.
short, I always had some jobs where I had like working in tutoring labs, and I had a lot of dead time. So, anytime you have too much free time, I try to think of how could I use this and how can we build a foundation for something else, so that I'm just not wasting my time. So I started writing down ideas, and mostly it was comedic ideas. And
Mhm.
it wasn't until I moved to Atlanta, where it's a much larger city with a bigger comedy scene, where if you go to enough comedy shows and you see enough people bomb, you kind of think, okay, I can do this. It's I can't do any worse than some of these people.
Right.
It kind of just goes from there. But definitely having a PhD gives you a level of confidence, a level of just having to defend yourself. Defending a dissertation, is a major part of getting a doctorate. So, just years of having to, stand on, what I believe confidently, you could imagine translate directly to the stage in terms of half of the jokes is just about the way you say it and how confidently you say it before
Right.
somebody believes you. So it works out well. We have a good time, man.
Well, it is about how confidently you say the jokes, but it's interesting you're talking about being a class clown, and there are levels of
Yeah.
class clowns. You got the accelerated class, you got the lower class. It kind of reminds me of a joke I have about thugs when I was raising my kids. They're like 23, 21, and 18 now. I said, hey, look, you're not thugs. Don't try that, okay? You have a dad who's a black man that talks like Tom Hanks. Okay,
Right.
forget
So
the thug thing, man.
and
That ain't gonna go. That ain't gonna go too well at the cookout. But no, I tell you, you know what, Weight Ball, I love your story, man, because hey, man, it's hard to imagine someone going from a PhD in academia to the stage as a comic, and that happens a lot, believe it or not, over in Asia and China, and Japan, where you have comics who have PhDs. It's commonplace and they just come here to America or even over there, and they just find this interest in stand-up comedy. They're very intrigued by it. So, what was it about comedy specifically that intrigued you?
Um, I think part of it is the storytelling side of it. But I do remember one of my earliest memories of comedy was Sinbad, and I
Okay,
remember me and my older brother and my mother, we would all sit in her room because she was the only person who had a TV in their room. She didn't let us have TVs in our room back then, so
okay,
we would sit in there, and that was one of the things that we could all watch as a family and laugh. And I mean, we laughed so hard at that afros and bell bottoms. I think was a Sinbad special at that. But
okay.
that really, just a way to bridge kind of generations with laughter was a big part of it. And then the other part was just the storytelling side of it. Like I knew I could always tell a story, and a lot of times I get mad at listening to other people tell a story. Like if four of us was riding in the car together and we had whatever we did that night, and now it's a story behind it. Only one of us is going to be able to tell the story so that everybody enjoys it. Somebody else riding in the car could tell the same story, and you just can't follow the story. The story is too long. They telling the wrong details. They harping on the wrong. It just doesn't make sense. So I know I've always been able to tell a story in a potent way that is easily received, and it's a funny story by the time I'm done with it. So uh, that's a big part of what I do in comedy is get to the point of the story. Develop it, but not harbor on the minor details that and then you got to embellish on the parts that make it fun too, right? So
Well, you do, and you can do it in a clean way. And I know you produce a show down there called Soulful Sundays Clean Comedy Show in Atlanta, Georgia. Tell us a little bit about that project.
yeah, so that one we haven't done another show since the pandemic,
Okay,
and we actually had a couple shows on Labor Day weekend where we did two shows at one local place, the Punchline in Marietta. So
okay,
one of those shows I tried to push as a clean show for the whole family. And it's just, right now it's kind of hard to get people out to those shows because a lot of the churches haven't really opened back up either. So, if the church is online, it's hard to get a church to endorse an outdoor or an indoor event.
okay,
Clean comedy show for the whole family if they haven't really been going back to church yet.
okay.
Uh, so, a lot of people are treating the COVID, with different fears, and rightly so. Everybody's health is different, and you're responsible for your own health, so you got to take whatever precautions you feel safe with.
Right,
Um,
right.
Definitely, before the pandemic, it's a monthly show. All of my shows, I try to bring an artsy vibe, so they always have live music. For this show, it's usually gospel music or some inspirational artist, and we
Okay.
always do a live painting too. So we paint a picture during the show, and then we actually give it away during the raffle. So it's a real cool vibe, but it's definitely something, like I say, that's built for bridging generational gaps. So, this is a show that you could have a grandmother, their child, and then a grandchild all in the same show. It is a comedy show, so we're not looking for 3-year-olds or 5-year-olds, but definitely by the time they're teenagers, they'll really have a great time here. So, and it's a little something for everybody. So,
Amen. Praise the Lord. Sounds good. How does your faith influence you as a performer, Wade Ball?
well, definitely, I am grateful for all of the gifts. A lot of what I do in comedy, I do things because I know I can. Um, and it's hard to really find your direction sometimes.
Okay.
Uh, Definitely, every show, anytime I get off stage, anytime I've ever had a good show, first thing on my mind is thank you, Lord, just for the ability, to do things that I've done a lot of things that people would be like, well, wow, how did you do that? Okay, you got a PhD. Okay, you're a comedian, and it's a lot of gifts that he's given me, and I just try not to squander them. Is really what it is. So who knows exactly how this is going to be used in, in his will, right? You
Right.
know,
Amen. Yes, sir.
I hope that his will may it be lucrative eventually.
Yes, we pray for his will to be that as well, Wade Ball, no doubt.
But definitely, I do it more for just the people who need it. So it's definitely a labor of love more than something that you receive some kind of monetary gain on. But it's
Yeah.
definitely um, something I've grown to love, and I can't imagine not going on stage. I was just as happy that the city opened up. It to me is not really an option to sit in the house. But I don't have a family. I live by myself. You see this house, you see all this nothingness behind me.
Okay.
So I just, it's not like I got anybody to worry about here. So
Right,
whatever
right.
I come back by myself is not an issue.
I hear you, man. I hear you. As clean comics, we try to, make a difference. I work with a lot of comics in DC. One thing that and I'm one of the few clean comedians in the city. I try to let the younger guys know. Look, man, let me tell you something. Put a clean set at 2, 3, 4 clean sets you back pocket because, uh, Kevin Hart, Bill Burr, Louis C.K. when he was out there, they put him on the sideline for now. But I'm just saying, Dave Chappelle, they can do a clean set like that because you're not going to be on Jimmy Kimmel, you're not going to be on Conan O'Brien, Seth Meyers. You're not going to be on those platforms unless you can do a clean set. So I
Right.
try to get a lot of the young guys to understand that they think they can go out there and say all these crazy things. That's fine if that's what you want to do, but I'm telling you right now, if you don't learn how to be clean, you're never going to make it. You're never going
Right.
to make it. I mean, you look at Jerry Seinfeld right now. Jerry Seinfeld is the #1 comic in the world, and he's a clean comic. I mean, as far as being lucrative, he's
Right.
accumulated way more money as a clean comic than anybody in the business. That's including Dave Chappelle.
Yeah, I
So
mean, I agree that, a big part of it is just that, it's so many different lanes of comedy that are not always advertised. So, people know
right,
what they might see on TV, which is, Comic View or Comedy Central or, the various cable comics.
right.
Um, so I definitely understand that anything and where TV is going now, TV is not really as clean as it used to be either.
No, it's not.
What is clean nowadays? I definitely do shows on both sides of the line.
Yeah,
I do a lot of
yeah,
clean shows, and I do a lot of shows that are in bars and places with hecklers and places that you're not even proud of sometimes.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
just to stay loose, loose with the tongue, and just to work consistently in the city.
Right.
Um, so it's definitely a balance there, but I've gotten to the point where, I most of the jokes that I could tell, I can move them from one side to the other, and there's no real need to. I mean, every now and then there's a joke that is a little too blue to say to take from a church to a bar, and but most of the stuff I try to figure out ways to say it both ways, and you know, like I said, my mother's a minister too, so I joke and we have a lot of fun, but I'm not gonna ever curse in front of my mother. That's
Right.
just the way I am. It's never gonna happen.
Yeah.
I kind of just keep that in the back of my mind, and that I can always have a good, fun conversation with her, and we can laugh till we cry. And at the same time, it's nothing that's got to be vulgar about it. So,
Right. Right. Exactly. Exactly. Let me ask you something, Wade Ball. Now, how do you when you're on stage? I don't know if you've ever been heckled before, but if you have, how do you handle that?
Well, most times at the clean shows, they don't heckle. Most times
Yeah,
when you go to church to tell jokes, or you got a nice, clean environment. They usually not gonna have a heckler. But like I say, when you up and coming and you just looking for stage time, you do a lot of shows that are in bars. Some of the shows they allow the crowd to boo you. They promote that like an Apollo style show. So
yeah,
it can really be tough. I think you learn from it, just like having fights when you were younger. You know what I'm saying? Once you
right,
like, okay, next time I'm not gonna let them get up on me that close. Next time I'm gonna put my back against the wall, and next time I'm throwing straight punches. You figure it out. You got to lose a couple fights. So I like to have a couple things in my back pocket. Because comedy is a lot about making it seem spontaneous, but a lot of the time it's just that you've been in this type of situation before. So for most comics, I would say it's easy to have a couple jokes. You don't want to go back and forth too much with a heckler, but it's easy to have your head so big, your head so little. It don't matter. It don't really matter what that person's head look like. You can
right.
say big head, little head joke, and you know what I'm saying. You can say, and then part of it is just I think that's what hack jokes are for too. So you know what I'm saying? They got
Yeah,
jokes out there that
yeah.
you can make hecklers for, and it's stuff that people are not that familiar with. So
Now let me ask you this: I'm sorry. Go ahead, Meatball. My bad.
oh no, I was just peeking out the window. I live in the hood and they shooting out here. It's too early to be shooting. I don't know what they doing. It's not on my street. I got a decent street, but they are shooting very close. I'm like, okay, Lord. I pray
I
for
hear
them.
you, man. I hear you.
I tried to buy. They say buy the worst house on the best block, right? And I did that. I was trying to find. I'm trying to get. I bought the worst house on the best block, but I bought it in the worst neighborhood. They ain't telling me what neighborhood to buy the house in. I'm telling you,
Okay.
man. Get it together.
Man, oh my gosh. Hey, you got to watch out, man. You got to watch your back, Meatball. I tell you that, dude. Um, Let me ask you something. What is your worst bombing experience on stage?
Well, I mean, every one of them I kind of learned from. I mean, I really don't feel like I bomb anymore now. Just
Yeah,
I'm never trying out that many new jokes, right? If I have new jokes, I weave them in, or I take a different spin on the old joke. But I don't. It's not like I'm trying to do 20 sets of 20 minutes of new stuff.
yeah,
And then at this point, I know how to. I have a better understanding of what new stuff should work. Where I can try a new joke out and it hit immediately. Now it's not like I gotta figure it out as much. And everything is still a work that's growing. But in terms of bombing, it was one of those shows that was like one of them Showtime at the Apollo, but not really Apollo. It was in was a Dugan's that's not even there anymore, but it's like a sports bar, and they
yeah,
allow people to boo you. Basically, they would say Dugan's, instead of booing, they would Dugan's, but it sounds like a boo, and it basically
yeah,
means
yeah,
get on.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, the problem with the place like this is that you can have 10 people, you can have 20 people right in front of you laughing. If
Yeah.
one person from the back, you can't even see him, one person way in the back starts booing, that thing is contagious like the COVID. I'm telling you, one boo just
Wow. Oh
like,
my gosh, dude.
oh Lord. And then, it's just hard to overcome that, even with a microphone, and then what I hate is because it's like you're giving people control that have never had control before. It's people that are scared that they have never
Right.
gone stage themselves. They've never
Yeah.
had authority. They've never been so much of a kickball captain. You know what I'm saying? In elementary
Yeah,
school.
yeah, yeah.
Now they got the authority to boo you and make you feel like you ain't nothing. So some people just gonna make you feel like you ain't nothing if they got the chance to do that.
They do. And a lot of hecklers, what I've learned, most of them are just been drinking too much and they get excited and they think they're helping you out. But then you have those dedicated hecklers like you're talking about, and they try to take advantage of that. And unfortunately, I'm not that kind of comic to kind of destroy you. But hey, guess what? There are guys out there that are time enough for those kind of people that live to destroy hecklers, and they run into, they meet their match eventually. I don't do that. Like I said, I usually just go, hey, yo, man, not only that, but wait a minute. Let me finish. You're going to love the end part. Hold on a second. I'll keep talking. If I do stuff like that, they'll kind of chill out.
Right.
95% of the time, they will sit down if you just simply acknowledge them, right?
Right.
But every now and then you get one dude that just want to, start something. I had one guy charge the stage one time, weight ball. I was up there. This dude was talking junk, and I was going on with my set, and I was doing pretty well. But he didn't like my jokes, and he actually approached the stage, and I said, and then he stopped, like he kind of like did like that, right? And I was like, hey, don't worry about it, y'all. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. He's excited because after the show, we're gonna go hunt Pokemon together, right? And everybody laughed. He was embarrassed. He felt stupid. The whole room laughed. And he went and sat down. That's about as close as I've ever come to really going back. And I really wasn't even going. I was just trying to make a joke about it. But he got embarrassed and he sat down. But the bottom line is, dude, when you're dealing with hecklers, it can be a tough deal. You just got to make a decision. Okay, how am I going to handle this? I just try not to go down to their level. But I mean, it's part of it. Heckling is part of it. Bombing is a part of comedy. It's gonna happen. You're gonna have to deal with it.
Yeah,
But
I mean, I totally understand. Like, I hate to stoop down to their level, but at the same
yeah,
time, you hate it worse when you get off of that stage and you feel like you left something on the bone too. So, I mean, recently,
yeah,
and this is a spot that I'm probably not gonna go back to ever again.
okay,
But so they embraced this heckling thing. So I'm literally on stage at a bar, and a drunk guy comes up and he yells out. So first off, it must have been a full moon because everybody who went on stage had their own heckler. I've never seen this before. It was they was in rare form. These people was,
wow, yeah,
I don't know how cheap them drinks was or whether it was just turpentine shots they was pouring, but these people was in rare form. It must have been a full
okay,
moon.
yeah.
So this drunk guy come, he approaches the stage, yells out, "You are horrible," and then he stumbles and falls onto the stage and just sits down there for the rest of my set.
Oh my gosh,
I'm
oh
talking about
my gosh,
I it was, and like I say, this wasn't even the worst time because I really, whatever it is, I went into some rare place. I went into some space where, and this was definitely not a clean show. Not after that drunk man sat on that stage, I was not able to. I was
yeah.
living, but at some point, the realness in my anger translates to humor to people. Like, whatever it was, I made it funny. And by the end of the show, I talked so bad. I talked so bad about the place, the name of the place, the security. I told the security they might as well go home. I'm talking about I went in on everything moving.
Okay.
And even where the drunk man woke back up and was like, okay, I'm gonna leave, what I'm saying? It was like, and at the end of the show, a lot of people was like, man, that was amazing. But I didn't necessarily feel good about it though. Like in the
I got
end, it was not something that I was proud of and that I would put on a resume.
you.
But
Yeah,
at the same time, I probably gained 10 fans that day from people who was like, I really want to see you regularly because I see you a real person. You know what I'm saying? So part of it's like they're like, okay, you are a real person. It ain't, but at the same time, you don't want to have to. I don't want to have to be that. I don't want, they to me they made me something that I was not really wanting to be that day.
exactly.
But obviously, it's in me.
Well, you know what, wait, Paul, the thing about it is there's a certain realness and authenticity about comedy that you have got to give the audience. You know what I mean? It's like as a part of whatever the jokes you've written, whatever your act is got the authenticity has to come out to the audience. Now, in your case, you were angry. it touched something real in you, and it was funny, and you don't want to be mean. Of course, you don't want to be mean, but I'm just piggybacking on the authentic part of your presentation. Like, you may not want to be mad, but that guy that came out, that's the guy they want to see all the time. You
Right.
may not necessarily have to be mean, but you can, like, it's something
Right.
there. It's definitely something there. And that's what they want, man. That's what the audience want. They want to know who you are. They want to hear your voice talk about whatever you're talking about. They want you to do it. So that's kind of what comedy demands. It's like it's got to be a certain level of realism, or the audience is gonna tune you out. But let me switch gears real quick, weight ball, to something serious real quick. I'd love to get your opinion on the social and racial climate in America right now regarding George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, of recent import, Jacob Blake, and that's just to name a few. There are a bunch of other people I could mention, Ahmaud Arbery. I can go on and on and on, unfortunately. But what are your thoughts about what's happening in America right now? If you look around the world, I mean, and I've never seen this happen before, even the world is appalled at what's happening in this country regarding racial and social injustice. And I'd love to get your thoughts on what's happening. And when you consider the protests, you consider Black Lives Matter and all the things that are happening in a pushback mode as a result of all these things. What do you think the chances that positive, effective change, weight ball, can come as a result of this?
I mean, what a well, you know, I mean, it's we in tough times, but it's. I mean, first I'm gonna just say I'm from St. Louis.
Okay.
My
Yeah.
family when I go back to St. Louis, right where they had all the Mike Brown riots and everything, where they burnt the city down. That was right where my family
Oh,
lives at.
wow. Wow.
So,
Okay.
uh,
Yeah.
so I mean, I've dealt with definitely police type of injustice.
Hmm.
Uh, I think a lot of it is just that it's on TV right now. And it just, I mean, partly, I mean, first off, if you believe what you see on TV, then that's a whole nother conversation. Or if you don't
Right.
believe what you see on TV.
Right.
So I mean, my thing is most of the stuff that makes it to TV has got a lot of backing. It's got commercials, you know what I'm saying? So they basically sell it, right? It's got commercials for a reason.
That's
Somebody else
true.
agenda for it even makes it on TV. So
That's
uh,
true.
it's hard to know what to really believe. Um, I've always kind of, I mean, like I say, I'm educated. I've never been locked up. I got a doctorate degree, but at the same time, I operate like I'm an ant in the world. You know what I'm saying? I know that
Yeah.
I could lose my life at any time. You know what I'm saying? It's like life is
Yeah.
precious. I look both ways before I cross the street. You know what I'm saying? Some people walk
Okay.
the street and don't even look toward the way of traffic, just stumble out in the street. I
Yes,
just
sir.
have
That's a good
my life
point.
like it's precious to me, but I know it's not valuable to the world necessarily.
Okay. Right. Right.
Uh, it's I try to be somewhat political. I wouldn't even say I'm really political, but I do have content in my material that deals with racism, deals with
Okay.
just wanting to protest. I talk about wanting to protest, but having a job where I don't need to be on TV.
Right.
Just,
Right.
simple stuff like like they got me working from home every day, but you scared that one day they're gonna call you into the office, and it's like, oh, if they call you into the office and you work from home, then you know your job is gone. It's they're like, go on and bring your computer in too. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, I want to keep my computer. So it's
Right. Right.
um, you know, is there? I mean, I don't know if you can really get a change in pleading with an oppressor to be nice. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Yeah, that's true.
I'm not. I don't like to just say, yeah, you got to overthrow everything. You know what I'm saying? And take it all and throw it in the garbage and then start from scratch. Because nobody wants to start from scratch. But at some point, it's like you got a wound that you just have infected underneath. You know what I'm saying? And at some point, you got to
True.
land it and get all that out of there.
That's
Um,
true. Yes, sir.
I just know that I can't walk around the world with hate for anybody, because that's gonna
Okay.
tear
I
me up.
got you.
Um, I live on a black side of town in a black city, which it makes you feel a little better, being in Atlanta is at least in the city of Atlanta. I'm not saying Georgia. You step outside of Atlanta City and go to Georgia, it's gonna be a lot of the same thing. And even one of the
Is that
people who
right?
they protesting on, he was still killed in the city of Atlanta. So it's not like this makes you safe either.
Yeah.
And it's hard when you look at it and people are, people always feel like, oh, it's somehow it's this man's fault that he's dead, or somehow he could have avoided it. But it still isn't like
Well,
it's
see, wait,
you
Paul,
know.
let me say this to you, dude. Let me just say, I like what you just said there. And that's the thing that really bugs me about the whole thing. The first check down for a lot of people is, well, if he hadn't done so and so, he would be dead. That's not the point. The point is, should he be dead at all? You see
Right.
what I'm saying? It's like,
So and so is not death. You know what I'm saying? And it's not
yeah.
an immediate death.
And
Right.
I mean, we understand all of that. We get all of that stuff. I mean, I'm just piggybacking on what you said, and you get that a lot in our society. And it's like, are we thinking about humanity right now? Are we thinking about equality? Are we thinking about what's right and what's wrong? I mean, what's really right here, and what's really wrong here? You know what I'm saying? It's like we're forgetting about all that. We're just making up excuses to excuse inappropriate, inhumane responses to what people do. And then that begs the question, do Black Lives Matter? And that's really the issue, you know what I mean? There's no call. Every person that I just named should be alive right now. And the person you just named, Mike Brown should be alive right now. You know what I'm saying, dude? And you start measuring, it's amazing how society tries to rationalize things that shouldn't happen. And so that just kind of struck the nerve. I'm sorry, wait, Paul. Keep going, bro.
In the scheme of things, I don't think, like I say, with all these protests and everything that's going on now, I mean, you see, they still not addressing the police issue is never going to be something that they're looking to do. They'll take, you see, they just changed the Redskins emblem, UNDC. They like, let's
Yeah.
do anything we can do. You know what I'm saying? Let's take Aunt Jemima off the box. Or let's, you know what I'm saying?
Well,
Let's
did you see, Wade Ball, did you see what they did there with the Washington Redskins? What they did was, in rebellion to the name being changed, they just said, we're not going to have a name. We're going to call ourselves the Washington football team. And that is done to let everybody know we're not changing the name. We're either going to be the Redskins or we're going to be. So anyway, the whole thing's pretty deep. The whole thing's pretty deep.
right.
But
I think
I don't know.
you could probably still pick something that represents Native Americans in a way that's not calling it a redskin. You know what I'm saying? It's like you got the Atlanta Braves. A brave is at least a positive image compared to a red. You know what I'm saying? It's not like you.
But well, the thing about the Redskins, and it's been going on for years and years, and everybody said, "Oh, the Redskins, this, that." Now nobody thought about it until someone came forward and said, "I'm offended." Someone from the Indian community came forward and they said, "I'm offended," and they tried to take it to court, yada yada, so forth, so on. Do you know that the Redskins since 19, my gosh, since 1993 have been a horrible organization up to the very day because somebody was offended because that name is a slur. We didn't
Right.
know that until somebody brought it to our attention. It's like, hey, yo, this is a slur. This is a racial slur. I'm letting you know. And the rest of the organization was like, I don't care. That doesn't mean anything to me. And from a spiritual standpoint, it's like, well, okay, well, you're not going to win anymore. I mean, just spiritual. Just look at it from a spiritual standpoint.
Right.
Well,
Right. Yeah.
you're not gonna win anymore. So they finally got, and this, I'm probably a wait ball. I may be reading too much into this, but those Bamas yesterday beat the Eagles in a way it was like they actually beat the Philadelphia Eagles when they should have lost the ball game, right?
Uh,
And I'm going, whoa, because they got a lot of talent on that team. They just been terrible for one reason or another for years.
yeah. And
And I'm just,
I say it's a curse of the Reds. I say it's a curse of the name. I'm like, why are you that defiant? It's like, you know, to me, it's like when you get white people who still want to say the N word. Why I can't say it? Why can't I say? Well, why is it so important for you to say it? You know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah.
Is, you know, not why
I
you can't say one word, right?
I saw an Italian comedian, and nothing against Italians, by the way. I love Italians, but he happened to be an Italian comic, and he was making jokes about the fact, like he was like, "Man, I love the N word. I love the fact that black people can say it all the time and nobody gets mad." He said, "But man, I think it's so cool." He said, "I wish I could say it, and I can't say it, and it makes me frustrated that I can't." He said, "I get it, but I wish I could." And I only said that to piggyback on what you just said too. A lot of white people want to say it the way we say it, and I'm like, well, why? You know what I mean?
I
So
mean,
it's
like,
funny, dude.
you know, I mean, sometimes women can talk to other women in a certain way that as a man, you can't address a woman that way, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
Every, you know, race has their own things where they might joke with each other about it, but that's not the same
right.
as you coming from outside joking about it.
Yeah,
Even for me, even when you're doing clean comedy like Christian comedy, you know, I do a lot of comedy jokes that can be about the church or maybe about Bible stories, but the way I do them is a way that a person who grew up in the church or a Christian can say, okay, he is on the inside talking about us as one of us. You know what I'm saying? Not
right.
sometimes people joke about Jesus, and it's a fine line when you joking about Bible stories and
It
God.
is. I think so. Yeah,
It's a way to take it too far, and people who, you know, if you never really grew up in the church or if you don't really have a respect for God and the Word, then it to me you joke with it in a way that's you've gone too far. You
then it
know,
becomes disrespectful. Yeah,
right? And it's like somebody, and to me, it's similar to a person that's not black saying the N word. You know what I'm saying? Or somebody like somebody from
yeah,
outside the group talking about the group in a negative way, where it's like, okay,
right,
we can talk about us that way, but you
right.
can't talk about us that way because you obviously not one of us. You know, so
Right.
very
Yeah,
thin. People joking about Jesus and the Bible, but a lot of times you could, you know, in the secular world, they'll joke about it in a way where you can see that is they not really a believer or they, you know, they, it's just, you know, all jokes about the church ain't equal. You know what I'm saying? And they not
no,
from
they're
the same.
not. I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. Well, but have you ever had a personal experience, a bad experience yourself with law enforcement?
Well, yeah, I grew up in St. Louis, so a lot of our experiences are bad with law enforcement.
Oh man, yeah,
Young, I mean, it's not that I was always doing right. I can't say I was always doing young and was doing right at a young age, but
right, right.
there are several times and several people I know that have either been wrongfully had cases put on them. some of the police were known for riding around with drugs. So if the police got drugs, it was like they could put drugs on you at any time if they didn't like you.
Wow. Wow.
Um, I've always, it's just the way we grew up was to just, I knew that if you talk to the police like you had some sense, it was a good chance that they might let you go if they not, because I wasn't one that was known by the police like that. So,
Right.
um, but I've heard stories where if two people get locked up together, one of them could have drugs, the other one wouldn't. But if the one of them had drugs and if the one that was clean was talking bad to the police, at the end of the day, he would be the one that would be booked with the drugs. And the one who actually had the drugs, if he was not, being aggressive, he might get off free without the case.
Gotcha.
And definitely in terms of them, it's been a couple times that I've been in handcuffs, and by the grace of God, it was one time, it was late at night, and we happened to be outside of whatever it was. One of the black police chiefs stayed on that street, so he was coming, home, and he stopped and got out the car, and he was like, I don't. Basically, they let us go, but they was having conversations about beating us, though. They was talking
Wow.
about for a second until he pulled
Yeah.
up, and they was like, all right, they was having a clear conversation about what to do with us. So,
Yeah.
not that I thought I was gonna die, but you felt like you was gonna
You didn't
get
want to get beat up either.
yeah, you was gonna get a so
Well, I appreciate you entertaining that conversation, Weight Ball. It's a touchy subject, and most African American men, unfortunately, growing up, have had some bad experiences, with law enforcement. I had a bad one in 1985. I mean, as you see, I'm quite a bit older than you. I'm 56. But
okay.
growing up, dude, in North Carolina, and I'm in college in the 80s, I'm going back to my dorm, and we get stopped at 2 o'clock in the morning by like 8 police cars. They're asking us, what are y'all doing out here? And it wasn't in a very nice way, the way they asked. But my buddy, he gave back verbally what they gave him.
Right.
And they ended up, man, and they picked him up, dude, bounced him off the police car, and they beat him up. And
Right.
and they, what I'm saying? So I mean, that happened right there in front of me. And I'm doing this, like you said, it depends on how you interact as to what will happen, and I'm giving them yes, sir, no, sir, we're doing this, sir. We came from I'm doing all the sir stuff.
Right.
And the guy they didn't do anything to me really at all, really. So but my buddy didn't deserve that. And what are you beating him up for?
He didn't deserve that, but at the same time, you got to know life ain't fair. Like that's one of the first lessons my mother ever taught. She's like, you looking for life to be fair? I don't know what life you're looking for. It's not gonna be fair. So
Well,
you need
yeah, you're right.
to move through this world like it's not gonna be fair and tiptoe.
Yeah,
Um,
well, you're right. Aretha Franklin said that in one of her songs, So no, you're right. I
so
totally agree with you on that.
like,
But
yeah, I always give, and sometimes you got to give. I try to stay humble, and I give people respect that don't necessarily reserve respect. Sometimes you have to
mhm,
still show respect, just as a show. I still be wanting to cuss them out in the back of my mind, but you know what I'm saying. Sometimes
yeah,
you still
right.
gotta show a certain. So for me, I'm cool with swallowing pride and handling business in order to manage whatever relationships I have in the world. So definitely with the
Well, no,
police,
I agree.
it's in your best interest not to, just to me appear as docile as I can. Yes sir, no sir. They'll think you back in slavery. They be like, "Did you just finish picking cotton?" Yes sir, I sure did. I don't know what else you want, sir. I just happy. Just for me, I just be like, man, just give me the ticket. That's to me, a ticket is fine. I can live with a ticket. That's all I want is the ticket. When I'm with the, I'm not even trying to argue. I want the exchange to be as quick as possible. And you know, I just give me the ticket, please. Give me the ticket. Let's get it now. I'm not even trying to warn it. Yes, sir. Okay, let me get the ticket. All right.
Yeah, and you know what? That just goes to the fact. I mean, like I said, I think most African American males has a story about a bad one, an unfortunate encounter with law enforcement, and it's just part of the territory. And you gotta, know, okay, I need to make sure I go home and just do what I need to do to make sure I get to the crib, man. And that's it. I mean, and you gotta know that, or it's gonna go bad for you. It's gonna go bad for you.
And the thing is, they target. It seems like the younger the people are being targeted. You know what I'm saying? It's like the
Yeah,
younger black men are. I mean, at this point, I don't. I mean, at this point, I'm more able, so I don't ride around with plates that aren't legal anymore. You know what I'm saying?
right,
I'm all the way legit now. It's certain stuff I do
right,
to avoid any contact with the police. So I feel
right.
way better riding around the city of Atlanta that's predominantly black anyway, and I know that
Yeah,
my all right. I'll fly past the police now sometimes because I'm like, all right, you know what I'm saying? Y'all going too slow. Get up out my way, man. Y'all, I don't know what you looking for, but
yeah,
when my place is right, you're not gonna mess with me. So you know what I'm saying?
exactly.
So I feel more free here. But as you know, when you're younger and money was funny, it's like you just got to get to work. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes your insurance go out, or it wasn't always easy. So when you start cutting corners, and then you just kind of get trapped behind one ticket or another ticket, and if you don't pay one or
Yeah,
two of them, you gonna have a warrant, and it's more, even being back on child support, you lose your license, and it still is kind of a snowball effect with the
yeah, yeah.
kind of legal
Uh,
system. So
well, wait, Bo, I just pray that things will get better in the nation. I just wanted to get your feedback on it. I appreciate, again, you entertaining that subject for a moment. Getting back to comedy, I want to ask you, and we live in an age right now, Wade Ball, in my opinion, of political correctness. And when you're a clean comic, I mean, you still have to battle a PC world. People get so offended now. You got all these different groups, and they're saying, you stepped on our toes, you offended us, and yada yada, all these different things. Have you had any difficulty kind of navigating that world of being politically correct as a comic?
well, as a clean comic, I would say being politically correct is different than being politically correct as a kind of more secular comic.
Okay.
In general, comedy is supposed to give you the freedom to say whatever you want to, or there's a level of freedom of speech. Now, there is stuff that's within a certain taste, and that's why you have shows that you look at different shows that are set up by different people or have different
Yeah.
themes. You find something that's within your taste of this freedom of
Right.
speech.
Yeah.
Uh, at the same time, I live in Atlanta, so in Atlanta, it's very it's definitely got a large, predominantly. I'm not saying predominant, but it has a large gay community where
Okay.
is a sensitive. Some groups that are sensitive to some rhetoric that is used.
Okay.
People who like to use the F word. If you say the F word here, we're not talking about the original F word. We're talking about FAGG, whatever you spell it. I don't know, but
I got you. I got you. Yes, sir.
that's the F word here, and that's a word that I wouldn't use. You know what I'm saying? And I don't use it anyway, but some people like to use that word, and I
And it will
just
set people off.
yeah, and
Yeah.
especially because I mean they got we do a comedy show out here, and it's right on the most kind of known homosexual area of town where the streets are painted in rainbow color. So
Wow. Okay.
if you do the show right on the corner where the streets are painted in rainbow, you don't need to be dropping the F word over there because obviously they're gonna feel a certain type of way. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, but when you're in other places that, and, I think traditionally us in terms of the black community has kind of been traditionally more homophobic. Um, and I'm not saying it's like our fault. It's like, if your manhood is challenged from slavery for 400 years, then yeah, you're going to be real protective of your manhood. I mean, I can't, I don't blame people for one way or another and how they operate, in the world we
Right.
live.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
but definitely there are some people that are more sensitive to others. I mean, I definitely try to curb my language, even when I'm at a show that's not clean. I try not to use the N word. Like I say, the F words. Any word with an F might as well stay away.
Right. Yeah,
It- and then, but I try to talk. It's a way to talk about people where they feel like you're one of them talking about them. So when I talk about somebody, it never turns to a negative. It's like your little brother just jabbing at you a little bit, or
right.
it's like one of your friends who you are cool enough with to let talk about you, and you can share a laugh. Uh,
Exactly.
so it's
And
it's
it's
just
kind of funny. Yeah,
it's just a way to do anything. So I talk about homosexuality, not necessarily endorsing or not endorsing it. You know what I'm saying? Just recognizing that it is part of the world we live in.
exactly.
I talk about racism the same way, politics here and there, but I generally keep a comedic spin on it. I don't go off on some tangent that. I mean, I still keep it funny, but
And that's the key, really, is keeping it funny. Yeah.
of what I'm going through.
And I
So
think that's what it comes down to, is keeping it funny. It's like but you got to know how to navigate it and keep it funny without allowing personal opinions or a personal opinionated statement get in there, because that's when it becomes a problem. You got to just know how to do it, but you got to be more skilled at it in 2020 than ever. Even as a clean comic, you can still make somebody mad. I did a show where my wife had an encounter on the interstate. Well, she watched a guy in an accident on the interstate that had on a what do you call those what do you call those a fishnet shirt. So she told me about it, and it was kind of funny, and I turned it into a joke. Well, the whole audience thought it was really funny, but there was a guy in the audience that felt like I was gay bashing, and I didn't really look at myself as doing that. Long story short, the booker, the lady that booked me, she came onto the stage and she was like, she said, come here. You just on stage now, Wade Ball. She said, you just offended my nephew and he's gay. Can you apologize? And I was like, okay, I apologize. I was getting paid. It didn't bother me. But when the show was over, a lot of people in the audience came up to me and they said, man, that was a really funny joke you told, and you should not have apologized. Because the guy actually had on a fishnet shirt, and I never saw him.
okay.
You see what I'm saying? Wait, but I never even saw the guy, but he thought I was, coming at him.
Right.
And so it all got blown out of proportion. So people get offended, man. I mean, over the smallest things.
You're never gonna make everybody happy, man. That's what you can't do. You can't make everybody happy. Some people just some people, when you're dealing with the public, you got them people who stuck in their ways and just gonna be how they're gonna be. And it's not anything that you can change. So, I try not to take it personal when you're dealing with people that's the public. They're gonna be finicky. Um, you know, these are the same people that watch TV and believe it. So I just can't, it's tough.
Hey man, some people think, Wade Ball, some people think wrestling is still real, dude.
Right.
Yeah, man, they think it's all out. What's this new league? I think they call it AF or whatever. But man, they think that stuff is real.
Like, yeah. And each one looks faker than the last one. And I'm like, okay, these whatever chairs they breaking over each other's head, they can't be the same chairs I'm sitting my big body in. I know these ain't the same folding chairs. They got to be.
Dude, hey, Wade Ball, they still think Ric Flair owes somebody something. I'm like, hey man. So I like that. That's true. Hey, Wade Ball, look, man, I appreciate it, dude. We have killed this hour. This has been a great conversation, and I appreciate you being on the show. Before we get away, how can fans follow you on social media or contact you for booking?
Yeah, so I'm easy to find on Facebook and Instagram. Is all under Weights Ball. So WEIGHT BALL. Put a space between the words, and Facebook and Instagram they probably put together. Basically, if you look up comedian weight ball, I pop up pretty quickly. I'm about the only weight ball as of right now, anyway. So if you put comedian in front of it, if you just put weight ball, you're gonna get all type of exercise equipment, which that's part of my jokes and stuff too. But I'm easy, and I answer all the messages that I get on there. So and all my shows or flyers and stuff are posted up there. What I got this week coming up, I'm actually in Greensboro this week, featuring for Rodney Perry. So it's a real good opportunity for me at the Greensboro Comedy Zone this week. So
okay.
4 shows on Saturday.
And wow, okay, man. So man, I tell you right now. So the Comedy Zone, and I guess they're doing the social distance stuff, right?
Yeah, I haven't been to that Comedy Zone since the pandemic. So all comedy clubs, I can imagine, they either have taken half of the tables out or they're only going to seat half of the tables. But then it just depends on how big a group comes in. So a group of 10 can sit in 5 tables that are real close or something. You know what I'm saying? Because they're all with the same group.
Yeah.
It's never a perfect science, and I think most of the stuff that people are doing is more for show. People, you got to wear your mask when you come in. But it's like you're only as protected as the weakest link, which might be the door handle, or might be something else
that's true.
Half of the time, the other day, I'm pulling my mask out of my pocket to put it on, and I'm like, I got money in my pocket, so I might as well put money on my face if I'm touching my mask with my money and you know what I'm saying? I'm like, so what is the weakest link of all of this stuff? It's like people who wear gloves all day and never wash their hand, and it's like, okay, you still contaminating everything just with your gloves on.
Exactly. So, yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Weight Ball this weekend in Greensboro, North Carolina. Check them out at the Comedy Zone. And I got a lot of buddies up there. I graduated. I went to school at North Carolina A&T and UNC Greensboro. So that's a great town. That is a really fun town. Greensboro, you're going to have a ball up there. Ladies and gentlemen, on the Maurice Brown Show from Atlanta, Georgia, live. Weight Ball. Thanks again, brother, for being on the show. God bless you, man.
All right. Same to you, man. Thank you for having me.
And everybody come back tomorrow at 12 noon with Jennifer O'Brien right here on the Maurice Brown Show.